Oh, go ahead, Aaron. We're all set.
Oh, great. Okay, well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the February 7th, 2024 meeting of the Danbury Planning Commission. We will open with the roll call. Mr. Chiocchio?
Here.
Ms. Hofstetter?
Here.
Mr. Sylvain?
Here.
Mr. Haas?
Here.
Chairman Finaldi is here. For those of you that don't know, I believe an alternate has been appointed to the Planning Commission after a very long spell with no alternates. The person's name is Cheryl Wallace Smith, I believe. Is that it, Joanne?
Yes. Cheryl Wallace Smith.
She could not join us tonight, but I believe she'll be sworn in and joining us soon. So that's good news. We're supposed to have two alternates, and
Three.
we are. Well, sorry, we're supposed to have three.
5 regulars, 3 alternates.
Boy. So we will be welcoming her, I guess, as soon as she can get here. Commission members, the minutes of the January 17th, 2024 meeting were previously distributed. I did not attend that meeting, so I will abstain from the vote. But unless there's any corrections, I'll entertain a motion to accept those minutes.
Mr. Chairman, so moved.
Motion made by Helen, seconded.
Second.
Second, Mr. Chiocchio. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And again, the chair will abstain from that vote. Let the record show the next regular meeting of the Danbury Planning Commission will be held on February 21st, 2024. And before we move to item 1 on our agenda, I'll just briefly read the Zoom meeting intro. This meeting of the Danbury Planning Commission is being held on Zoom as a virtual meeting. Even though this meeting is a virtual meeting, members of the public and interested parties continue to have the opportunity to participate in the meeting in a couple of different ways. You can participate via Zoom and see the audio and the video, or you can call in by phone and participate via audio only. Please be aware that we may have to mute your microphone or telephone to avoid an echo or some other background noise. Instructions on how to participate in the meeting appear on the City of Danbury website, and all of the documents and materials that apply to the matters to be discussed during this meeting, including the agenda, are also available on the City of Danbury website. As always, if you have any questions regarding how to participate in the meeting, please contact the City of Danbury Planning and Zoning Department. As a reminder, the entire meeting will be posted on and can be seen on the City of Danbury website. We will follow the posted agenda as per standard practice. If prior to the meeting, any questions or comments on agenda items were submitted via email to the Planning and Zoning Department, those comments will be read during the appropriate portion of the meeting. Finally, please be aware and remember that technology glitches sometimes do occur. Please be patient if that should happen. Okay, well, I don't know, hopefully all the commission members are aware of this. A bit of a bittersweet presentation this evening. This will be Sharon Calitro's very last presentation of the capital improvement plan to the Planning Commission. And Sharon, it has been a pleasure, and we thank you for all the hard work you've done for so many years on this. And while we look forward to your presentation, we're very sad that it's going to be your final one.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate it. And before I get started, I just want to say what a pleasure it's been to work for the city and with you on this commission, particularly on this commission over the last 25 or so years. I don't really want to say that. It's a really long time. So I truly, professionally and personally, appreciate all the work that you commission members have put into this. It's not easy. It's a lot of issues and a lot of hard decisions, and you are just very thoughtful and diligent in the execution of your duties. So thank you for making my job easy and being supportive and being inquisitive and questioning me when you need to, and my staff. So I will miss all of you very much. So with that, let me present to you tonight the department's recommended capital improvement program for FY 24-25 through 29-30, which is, I can't believe I even am typing those dates out, but here it is. So you all got a copy. It's on the agenda, the 6-year program. It includes a capital budget for FY 24-25, which is next fiscal year, and also a separate PDF, which just lists the unfunded projects for the next year. So in the FY 24-25, there's only one project, and over the last couple of years, we've had a number of projects which we have identified as being potentially eligible for ARPA funding. So there was ARPA funding, about $32 million the city got over the course of the last few years. It's been allocated, has to be allocated by the end of this year, 24, spent by 26. In this proposed or recommended budget, we only utilized one project or recommended it for the use of capital funds, and that's the new body-worn camera and taser project contract for the police department. Again, about, I don't have the exact number with me, but about $11.5 million in various projects, and then the balance of the money that the city has been allocated funded other things that were ARPA eligible. But in this recommended budget, there's only one project listed for ARPA, use of ARPA funds. And again, the mayor and the city council, and there'll be a public process on the use of that. So that has to go through the normal course, as well as any projects that may be eligible for funding under the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, which is IIJA, are subject to the eligibility requirements of that specific program. By charter, as I've indicated in the past, the department is responsible for coordinating all the department requests for the city and recommending a CIP for approval by the Planning Commission. The PDFs that you see represent the 6-year program for the expenditure of funds. Each year we review the budget. Priorities change, projects come up, needs change. So we adjust it, even though it's a 6-year program, it's not set in stone. So every year we kind of do an adjustment. We talk to the department heads, we request from them an assessment and a capital projects request, and then we analyze that and kind of get into the weeds with them. This process, as you know, is separate from the operational budget, which the mayor puts together, and then it becomes part of the overall city budget that he presents to the council in April. And as usual, the mayor and the finance director can adjust the CIP during their capital budget process. And that has happened in the past as well. So the funding sources for the capital projects and the programs, I'll just identify them. There's one little change, and we can talk about that if there's any questions, but I'll go through that. There's general fund capital, which is kind of money that raised from the mill rate. It's kind of our general fund money. There's bonds, new bonds that must be authorized in this proposed the CIP. There are no new bonds. You may recall last year we had a huge water bond, but there's nothing proposed at this time. Notes to be issued. There's currently a maximum of $3 million limit. The city can issue bonds or bands, which are short-term notes, without a referendum. So you'll see the column on the notes that total $3 million. There's LoCIP money, which is the local capital improvement program, and those are dependent on state funding. Those are projects that can be funded under the state program, and they're very specific. And so we have to go through that and make sure that the projects that we've identified as LoCIP eligible actually meet those funding. There's community development block grant funds that we receive, the city received directly from the federal government. So those are allocated. And then there's state and federal grants for eligible projects. Some of those require a city match or projects funded from state agencies. And so this year, the change is we have designated an allocation for what we're calling, and the finance director may or may change it, but our cannabis fund. So as you may recall, the city has 2 facilities that sell recreational cannabis. The law requires that they collect a 3% tax on that, and then it goes to the state notifies us, and we then collect a certain amount we collect that tax from them directly. So we've been notified of those amounts, at least, well, from the two facilities. One is Botanist, one is Badar on Federal Road, as you may recall. And so we've allocated a certain amount of funding for the sidewalk project and construction services. Now, there are only certain things these revenues may be used for under the legislation. We could talk about them if you want. I'm prepared to do that. And it has to go into a separate fund than the general fund. So we're notified by the Department of Revenue Services what someone owes us in taxes. We collect the taxes, we being the city, we put it in a separate fund, and it can only be used for 4 or 5 different things. So you'll see an allocation for that under construction services projects. The enterprise funds are the ambulance fund, the animal control fund, and the water and sewer funds, and those are supported by user fees. And then again, there's some ARPA projects. We try, as we have in the past, to, and this budget does reflect that, to continue to fund projects that are underway or need additional payment. We also have some lease payments that we have to include in the capital budget. And then with whatever funds are left over, we allocate to some new projects. So this year, if you want to jump just to the 1-year budget for 24-25, I can walk you through the projects. But at the end of the day, I don't know if you have specific projects, questions about them. I'm more than happy to walk through them specifically, or I could just jump to the bottom line and give you the explanation for them. But there are airport projects that are generally grant related, and there's a small portion that's due from the city. There's projects under the Construction Services Department. They're listed by department or division. Construction Services Division of the Department of Public Works. Many of them you've seen before. That's where you'll see in the general city sidewalk repair and replacement, $350,000 for next year allocated for sidewalk work. That fund will have significantly more than that, is what I can say. And then there's a new project at the Danbury High School. I'll talk about that at the end. There's some projects for the Danbury Museum, which we believe are LoCIP eligible. So we'll verify that, and they'll get funded through the LoCIP program with money from the state. There's under emergency management, an allocation for emergency generators, which were necessary, and an amount that they're requesting to complete the fit out for the emergency command vehicle. There is some money that has been allocated in the past. They just needed more. For engineering division, they needed additional funds for the Kennedy Avenue Bridge, the West Street Bridge over the Blind Brook, the George Street Bridge, and then there's a program, the Safe Walk to School in the public right-of-way program. Again, I'll talk about that at the end. Traffic signal coordination project, and some, I'll call it seed money, but money for some preliminary citywide transportation design and permitting. As you may imagine, we need to leverage design plans in order to access funding that might be available under a program. So we need some money to do some initial work on intersections and roadways to get the actual construction work funded. So we have an allocation for that. Under the fire department, it's tools, it's replacement vehicles, it's turnout gear, it's communications. In the forestry department, there's tree trimming in the public right-of-way, which, as you can imagine, we always need, and that is actually LoCIP eligible, a LoCIP eligible project. Under the highway division of public works, there's an allocation for equipment, which we always try to do. There's always paving money. We can't get enough paving money. Guardrails, fences, storm drainage repair. And then this year, and again, I'll talk about this at the end, because these are kind of sort of the drivers of the big number. Some specific drainage issues. I mean, rain, water, drainage has been a real issue in terms of what's going on in the climate and the impacts to Danbury. So there are there are 6 or 7 locations that the Department of Public Works has said to me, these are the locations where we have the most issues on every major storm event. People call, people complain, there's water everywhere. So in this capital budget, we put these projects in. They need to do something about them, and we need to address them. They are the experts. This is what they're telling us. These projects are costs, so we've included that in this year's recommendation. The IT department, again, many of these projects are kind of underway, but again, you know, basic hardware, software, IT security, things like that, that enable us to run the city. This year, the mayor wanted, in discussions with him, some money to be able to make some decisions that there are grants that we need to have local matches for. So in order to start to build this program, we put in an allocation of $250,000 under the mayor's office that we can use, the city can use as a whole for some matching grants. And then park maintenance, there's some LoCIP eligible projects under planning. We did get a grant under the Safe Streets for All, which is through the IIJA. So we need to have our match for that is $100,000 to $400,000. We got a $400,000 award, and so we put the $100,000 match in for that. And then under the Pulse Point engineering study and design, we put some additional funding under what we're hoping will be the IIJA money to be able to do that. And there's existing $300,000 in there. The police department, we fund vehicles every year, communication, equipment, patrol, replacement, equipment replacement program. And then there's the new body camera contract that we signed, and that's the ARPA money that's allocated to that. Public buildings, we try to fund the HVAC replacement program every year with some money, and they make a decision on what the needs are. They have a list that they go off of. There's some vehicles that are necessary for that department. There's some improvements at City Hall that need to be made. And then there's a citywide public buildings facility study that you may have heard the mayor at some public meetings indicate he wants to have done, and that's the estimated cost for that. And then there are several projects allocated for some improvements to the schools, building soffits, the HVAC program, the piping, tunnel piping repairs at various schools, windows, doors, and the Ellsworth Avenue School, the original school, not the one we just rebuilt. The original school needs a roof. So that's like a $3 million job. Recycling and solid waste, some work at the landfill, just on maintenance. There's an allocation for Terrawile for some air conditioning units at the mansion. And then we pulled these out separately, a pumper lease and a school boiler replacement program lease. So those are lease payments. We have to pay them every year like you would pay a car lease. And those have to be included. And then finally, in terms of the enterprise funds, there's some small amount of additional funding. The animal control division has been requesting for a long time. So I said, why don't we just give them the $15,000 that they need and buy the vehicle that they need? Hopefully that'll do it. And then there's $1 million for both proposed for both the water and the sewer fund, and they're allocated to the projects that you see listed. So all of those in total, so again, by category, there's the general fund, existing bonds, new bonds, there's notes, that's the 3 million we can go out without a referendum under the current charter. We can issue, I should say. There's LoCIP money, about $565,000 that the city has allocated. Again, specific projects. Can't be used for everything. CDBG, same amount. Our allocations probably double the 250, but the other half goes to programs at the moment. So we've just been kind of holding the line at the 250. There's the 566 for the body camera and project at the police department to pay the new contract. And then there's obviously other grants, and then the enterprise fund. So the major driver, the biggest change in all of this, and to be transparent, is the general fund capital amount, which is, as you might know, significantly higher than you've seen over the last 5-10 years. And I do have the numbers. So, and there are drivers to that. And those are, those include $1.2 million for a school. It's a school and a public buildings facility study. So you may have heard the mayor talk about, we need to assess the condition of all of our buildings before we start to do something. Well, there's a cost to do that. And that's what I'm told from the Director of Public Works is the cost of that study. So that's a driver. There's the drainage work that I spoke about. Now, this is drainage kind of off city streets, might go onto private land, but not state roads or anything like that. So there's about $4 million in drainage work. Of that $4 million, I think about 6 of that is included. I think it's 6. It might be 8, but I can find it specifically. Some of it has to do with the Elmwood Park area on Main Street, and that drainage work was also included in a grant that CIFC applied for under the Community Investment Fund 2030 grant. If they get that grant, that work will come off of this. So again, that will come out of it. There's the Kennedy Avenue Bridge, which is $1.6 million more than I think everybody thought it was going to be, of which half the amount, or about $800,000, will be reimbursed. There's a $400,000 construction services project to replace the lights at the Danbury High School Stadium, which was a project that was being advocated. And there's the engineering, from the engineering department, the Safe Walk to School. It's a transportation alternative program grant, and that's a reimbursable grant. But we need to show it in the general fund column, because you have to have the money to award the grant and then get reimbursed at the end. That's part of the program. So it shows up, but you get it back. So I took, at the bottom line on the general fund capital was 18.4, and I took off the reimbursable grants, which is, I took 800,000 for the Kennedy Avenue Bridge and the 3.4, and got it, and deducted that from the 18.4 million, got it to 14.2 million. But again, it's 4 times more than you're used to seeing. Again, drivers, a lot of drainage work, big facility study. I just think the administration is going to have to make some decisions on kind of what they want. This is what they've told us they want to do. Our job is to put a cost to it, to give it to them. They can decide if they want to do some of these projects or not, like they do every year. I mean, they can adjust the numbers. So that's where we are. Again, I think the mayor and the finance director will obviously go through this and make some decisions about certain projects, but that's the column that they look at for the most part. When making decisions, and they'll make changes and incorporate that into the mayor's proposed budget. So with that, I will take any questions. Let me just say the unfunded projects I just list on a separate spreadsheet. I know there are numerous, but we just try to tick away at them every year. It's just a long list. It keeps growing.
Sure, Sharon, just a couple of questions.
Sure.
So you mentioned that we do have 2 cannabis dispensaries approved in Danbury. I know the one on Mill Plain is open. I don't even know if the one on Federal Road is open.
Yeah, it's open.
It is. did that 3% amount to anything, or is it too
Oh,
early?
yeah.
to tell?
Oh, yeah, I would anticipate, based on the numbers that I know, at least from one of the facilities over the course of 2 months, $1 million a year is not an unheard of amount.
Okay.
So, but again, I mean, that's for both facilities. So one facility for 2 months generated about $85,000. So now you have two facilities. So it's only on this, it's not on the sale of the medical, it's only on the sale of the recreational. So, and that money the city has to collect, they have to put in a fund, and they have to use it for the 5 things that the statutes say we can use it for. One of them is streetscape improvements. I consider that sidewalks and things like that. That's it, so 350 is pretty conservative when we're, in 2 months, we're at 85. So, 2 months of this year. Now I'm talking about starting in July 1st. So we're collecting the money in the 23-24 fiscal year.
Yeah.
So we're not going to spend it for this until the 24-25, which is in July, as of July.
Could you give me 30 seconds on what a pulse point engineering study is? Maybe I should know that, but I don't.
You will. I'm going to tell you what that is. You'll say, oh yeah, right, of course. So from the TOD study and the POCD, we talked about moving the buses over to by the rail station. So this would be kind of the more detailed engineering and design for that parcel, which is now currently owned by Eversource, where the gas ball used to be and where our skate park is, to move the bus hub over there. The benefit of having that study is leveraging a lot of federal funds, because connecting transit and buses to trains and people to access public transportation. So that's what that is. We think that's an eligible project under the federal. So we're going to try to access that. But it's important to get that study done. So we call it the Pulse Point. But
okay, it's a catchy name. Commission members, any other questions for Sharon? Mr. Kiokio, go ahead.
Just a few questions. So on the under the engineering, the Kennedy Avenue Bridge and the safe walk to school, which amounts to about $5 million. And I know that you said there's reimbursable money, and for that it looks like it's over $4 million for that. Is that automatic, or if there's no reimbursement, they won't do that, or how is that scheduled?
So the Kennedy Avenue Bridge project is already approved under the state bridge program. It's just when it was designed and obviously approved through the state on all of that, and we went to bid on it cost a lot more. So they've said, as I understand it, to the engineering department, we'll pick up our share. It might actually be more than 50% of the 1.6, which would be great. So that'd be more. I just assumed, I just took the 800,000 to be conservative. It would be nice if, the total project, and then they ended up, more than half of it. But yeah, so that project has already been approved under the bridge program, and the same for the safe walk to schools. That program. Again, we had enough for the match for that. We just need to show that we can award a contract. We have to have the money to award the contract, to start the work, to do the work, to get reimbursed for it. But it's already been approved. It's already been approved.
Okay. Yep. So in the just as a refresher, because we only get to see this once a year, the general fund capital. So that's basically current year funds that are going to come out of our mill rate, right?
Yes, taxes. Yeah.
Yep. Okay. So this is kind of the max of what we think the capital improvements for this year could cost, right? And what you're saying is the mayor, and as he's going through the budgets, may potentially skinny this down if they decide they don't want to do something, or could it go up, or how does that work?
I would anticipate it going down because this is, we've been,
Yeah, I looked last year. it was
yeah, so
4
from
million bucks.
1920, I mean, from the 19 FY 19/20 to this year, we've run 4 million to 3.5 million
Yeah.
in that column. So
Right,
we're at 14 with the reimbursables, right? So
Yeah.
you're exponentially more than what we usually do, but there are projects that he has indicated to us that he wants to do. I
Yeah.
just, at this point, I have department heads telling me we need to deal with drainage. You know, this is what the facility study costs.
yep,
And so I'm not going to make the decision that one is worth
Right.
more than the other, right? So let them make a decision. I understand, it's totally understand it's 5 times more than you've usually seen because we've been in the $4 million range and now we're in the
Yeah,
$14 million range.
yep,
But I'm not going to say don't do something in IT or don't buy
Yep,
police
okay.
cars, like, or make police cars a little less and do, or maybe there's a bond. I don't know at this point. It's a
Yep.
new administration and they'll make some decisions with the finance director on the appropriate
Okay.
use.
Yep. And so just how that works, so to the extent that they decide they want to do all of this, that's over last year would be, you said 14 million, counting the reimbursables. So that would be a fairly significant hit to what happened with
Right.
taxes, right? Okay,
Yes.
okay. I just want to make sure I
I
understand.
don't think that, I'm not sure that's necessarily going to happen. I don't think that's going to happen. I'm just saying, based on our role to listen to the department heads, to
Yep,
kind of
yep.
go through the weeds, we have to present to him. Now you
Yep.
decide,
Right.
these are my priorities, and they'll do that. I have no doubt they'll do that, because it won't be 14 million, but it might not be 3.5 million. It might,
Right, right.
but
Yeah,
we
no, I get it.
eventually, I mean, the bottom line, Bob, and the commission, and I've said this to you every year, the city has capital needs. We have to figure out how to address it. I've had this discussion with every administration along the way. I
Yep.
mean, we just have to start to build our capital program to get things done. And I know it's not an easy discussion. Nobody really wants to do it, but you got to invest in your capital infrastructure.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, no, I get it. I just wanted to make sure I put all those pieces together, and that's what I thought, but I just wanted to get
Yep.
confirmation on it. And then just one last one, which I think everybody's probably interested in. I was looking at it, it looks like $3 million for paving, which doesn't seem like a heck of a lot,
No.
given a lot of what I hear out there, that the roads are terrible and everybody wants their roads paved. And I didn't get a chance to look last year or whatever.
Yeah,
but
I think I have the number. I'm gonna look it up while
yeah,
you're talking.
is that kind of an average number, or is that it seems
Yeah,
low?
I mean,
I
last
wanted to say
year.
I saw like 20 million in there one year, if that, does that make sense?
No, 1 year we had a bond. When we had the SNAP bond, we had
Oh.
about $10 million.
Okay, I thought there
And
was a
so,
really,
I mean, and they paved till the cows came home.
yeah.
Last year's budget, here's 23, 24. And so it's modified by Marion. $3.4.
Oh, okay,
So we're about the same.
similar, okay. All right, great, thank you.
Thanks.
Anyone else, commission members, questions for Sharon?
Mr. Chairman?
Helen, go right ahead.
Hi Sharon.
Hi.
This week I saw in the paper on Monday, the federal government approved $4 million grant to Western Connecticut Council of Governments for the specific purpose of supporting road improvements.
Mhm.
Danbury has 26 road improvement projects, which I guess were identified in detail as being supported by this funding. Has that been accounted for in here? And, like, is it under, I'll start with this. Has it been accounted for in here yet?
That we don't have those projects specifically listed. They are like Several of them are, and I'm doing this from memory because I did go through the list, but yeah, it's almost 4 million. But several of them are crosswalks, rapid
Yes.
flashing beacons,
Yeah,
things like that. They aren't like big structure, or we're not rebuilding necessarily big roads. This is
And-
just about making things safe.
I don't
Safer.
think
Yeah.
Danbury's getting all 4 million either. That went to
No,
the,
right.
what's.
It's a 4 million overall, right?
Yes, exactly. So that's not listed specifically. I mean, I was wondering if it might be under the federal grant or something, that column, but.
Yeah, I didn't have that in here.
Okay,
Helen, that's a good question, and maybe well, there's no match for us, so
Yeah.
it's their grant, so if there's no money that we're putting into it,
okay. No,
it doesn't
I mean,
necessarily need to show.
yeah, it's new anyway, I think. So I just was wondering if, because it might be a little bit of an injection when we finally get it in the plan, right?
Yeah, so and as a follow-up to that, the SS4A, which is the Safe Streets for All grant that we did get, was to develop kind of an action plan for safe streets. So we got money to develop the plan. The plan will identify things that need to be done. And then we can leverage completion of the plan to access additional money to do the work that's recommended in the plan.
All right, so this is money that will be coming in, which is good news too.
Yeah. I mean, the 3 or the 4 million on the West Cog is wonderful, but we got additional money to do other work to try to tackle other things that are going on.
Okay, well, thank you. I just wanted to know on the timing of that. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Anyone else, commission members? Questions for Sharon? Last chance to ever question Sharon Colicchio on
no.
Well, I'll say thank you. I had a couple questions, but they've been answered already, and thank you. Excellent job explaining it, Sharon. Thank you.
Thank you, Perry.
Well, commission members, if there are no further questions for Sharon, I'll entertain a motion to approve the CIP as submitted.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make that motion.
Motion made. Do I hear a second?
Second?
Second by Mr. Sylvain. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Well, so it goes right to the new administration, and then they can do their thing to the city council. So
Thank you.
it took its first step. Thanks again for everything, Sharon. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you
Thanks,
so much,
everybody. I hope
Sharon.
I'm going to
Thank
see
you.
you all. Okay.
Thank you, Sharon.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, we will move on with the business of the Danbury Planning Commission. There are no new public hearings this evening, so we'll go right to continuation of public hearing. Item 1, Guy and Roberta Montanari, property owners, application for special exception site plan approval for 1, petroleum distribution, section 6B2B6, 2, petroleum storage, section 6B5B1, and 3, business office, section 6B2A4, for Casey Energy applicant in the IG80 zone, 82 Payne Road, M12008, special exception number 797. Is there, well, before I get to for and against, I think Ally did distribute another email later this afternoon. I hope everybody got that. I know I haven't had a chance to read all of it yet, but I just wanted to make sure everybody got that email based on information we received today. So with that, good. Thank you. With that said, is there anyone wishing to speak in favor of this application?
Yes,
Attorney
Mr. Chairman.
Beecher.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, everyone. For the record, my name's Tom Beecher and I represent Casey Energy. And with me tonight are Dinas Verbickas, the project engineer, and Shane Casey and Mike Brown from Casey Energy. Dinas has filed the responses to the city comments that we had received previously, and he's submitted updated plans and documents, which he'll go through with you. Obviously, in keeping with what you just said, Mr. Chairman, because we filed our information relatively recently, we understand that this hearing is going to need to be continued so that city personnel can review what we submitted and respond with their comments. I've submitted an extension letter to give an extension to your next meeting. So with that, we'll get right into it, and I'll ask Dinas to go through some of the changes.
Good evening. For the record, Dinas Berbekis, professional engineer with Artel Engineering Group, here on behalf of the applicant to continue our presentation for the proposed redevelopment of 82 Payne Road, to change the use or continue the use for repairs, but also include the use of bulk storage of fuels and distribution of those fuels. We had received a number of comments from municipal review agencies, and we have responded to those comments. And if I could share my screen, perhaps I can take you through the modifications that we have prepared to the plans. Is that okay? Haha. There we go. Pop up. Okay, can everybody see that?
Looking
Yes.
good.
Terrific. Well, if I could zoom in a little bit, I'll take you through it. But what we've got is a copy of the site plan portion of the plans on the screen, and taking you through some of the modifications that we have prepared, or responses that we've made to city comments. I'll take you right from the road and on inward into the site. First and foremost, we do have a sidewalk proposed along the entire frontage of the property, incorporating comments made by Construction Services Department, including removal of rock walls that exist along the property frontage, and the installation of a sidewalk along the property frontage. And this sidewalk itself will be 5 feet wide, and it'll be similar to recently installed sidewalks on other properties along Payne Road. Because there is no, because the sidewalk is right up against the edge of the road, we've got a 6-inch reveal, and in order to get ourselves across the throat of the driveway here, we will have an accessible ramp, only 6 inches to make up the height of a typical curb, to get ourselves down from the sidewalk height down to the driveway height as we go across the throat of the driveway. The engineering department, traffic engineering department, had asked that we look to rework the driveway itself. On the prior application, the driveway was a bit wider, at about 30 feet wide, and it was pushed downward on the map, basically in a southerly direction. And what we have done is we've narrowed the driveway down to 24 feet in width at its narrowest point, and scooched the southern portion of the driveway upward to the north, to narrow that down based on a sketch provided by the city traffic engineer. In doing that, it allowed us to regrade portions of, actually a good portion of the driveway entering into the site, and that falls right into place with comments made by other city staff review agencies with regards to the driveway. Our initial intention was to keep the driveway as it's been for the past 30 years, and functioning without incident. But in keeping with the zoning requirements, we have updated the driveway now to match city requirements of 3% to 8% in the first 30 feet, and down to a 12% maximum as we enter in through the site. And we do get pretty steep in this region here, but the driveway has been updated and will be reworked to match city requirements. And as before, once we get down to the backside of the proposed addition, things are pretty level, allowing places for trucks to stop, emergency vehicles to stop should they need to. I know that was a concern of the fire marshal. So we've got a nice level area here. Level area as you round out around on the north side of this existing rear structure. And again, gentler grades of about 5% in this vicinity of the site. And of course, even gentler grades as we get to the rear where our fuel storage tanks are located. Part of the comments that we had received also asked that we show not only a trash enclosure, which we have on this portion of the site here on the north portion, but there was also a request that we add in a recycling enclosure too, which we've put in a matching enclosure on the southern side of the property. So we've got enclosures for both trash and recycling on site. Got our loading space conveniently located in front of that trash enclosure area. What we've also done is we've taken our propane storage tanks, which are located here at the westerly portion of the site. And initially we had them proposed to be above grade, and we have now put those below grade. So now there will be 2 tanks located underground underneath a concrete mat, so vehicles could drive over it should they need to. And of course, this eastern portion where all the mechanicals are located above grade, interconnecting the tanks and for fueling and such. That will be all protected by a number of concrete bollards, steel bollards with concrete inside of them, similar to what you'd see at a supermarket or a retail store where they've got the bollards near the doors. So it'll provide adequate protection. There was a request made that we also provide a floor plan for the building. And what I can do is I can shift to that and show you basically the 3 elevations of the building, the existing building, as well as the proposed warehouse building. So this picture or drawing on the right side of the screen is of the first floor of the home, which will be converted to office use for the business that will be operating there. This center picture is of the basement of the existing home, and that will lead into a mezzanine level in the rear addition. So the mezzanine level and the basement of the home will be all at the same elevation. And then this leftmost picture depicts the lower level of the warehouse, which would be this entire box. And just for so that we can kind of remember what it'll look like, we have the elevations again that were proposed. The bottom elevation would be if you were standing at the south side or to the left of the property looking northward. This is what you would see. Again, the home, the first floor of the existing home, which would convert to the office space. Then, of course, the basement and a mezzanine level in here. And then all the way to the left would be the warehouse. And, of course, the floor of the warehouse projects underground as we go eastward on the site. one other document that we prepared to help traffic engineering better understand our site distances is we prepared an overlay of our site over an aerial photograph, and we were able to depict that sight lines, both extending to the north as well as to the south, provide unobstructed view and access to the site. We did also, as part of our submission, prepared a bunch of vehicle turning plans. I can go through them if you'd like, but basically it shows a truck circulating through, or trucks circulating through the site, and, still pictures and all of the vehicles that will be coming to the site and leaving the site can easily negotiate around the site, both in for deliveries and out for deliveries to homes. And I think, in a nutshell, that covers most of what we've done. Oh, one other thing, we did also add, as part of our spill control plan, we did add in a small storage shed tucked in behind the trash enclosure, and in the storage shed we'll carry or keep our supplies of Speedy Dry should there be any kind of an oil spill. Plus we'll have oil sorbent pads and the like, shovels and what have you, should there be a need to mop up some small drippings from any fuel deliveries. I'm happy to answer any questions that anyone might have.
Dennis, the capacity of the 12-foot high vertical oil tank, how many gallon capacity is that?
So the vertical tank is 20,000 gallons.
And just a question, obviously, with any tank full of any sort of fuel, there's always the concern about spills. With regard to the secondary containment around that, who regulates that? Is that an OSHA regulation, Dennis? Is it a state, a city, a federal? Who mandates how you have to structure the secondary containment around that tank?
I think and now I'm going beyond where I really know, but I believe that it's the Code of Federal Regulations that dictate that what you need. I think the Connecticut General Statutes also make note of what is required, and the monitoring of that would be self-regulating. So clearly the users want to make certain that there is that everything is kept up to snuff. And basically, what's kept up to snuff? Well, the tank itself is encircled by a concrete wall, concrete berm, basically, and the tank is set down within that, so that the capacity of this bermed up area is 110% of the capacity of the fuel tank. So any spill that occurs would be contained within that enclosure. And of course, part of the spill prevention and what is it called? Spill prevention emergency response plan. Every fueling business such as this requires to have an emergency plan on file. All employees are to know the ins and outs of it. In that response plan, there are emergency telephone numbers of who to call and when to call, and provides the protocol with which things would get done in the event of a spill.
And that particular tank is an above ground tank, right? So
that's correct.
Okay, so if it leaked, even if it was a gradual leak, you'd be able to see it, hopefully.
Yeah. You'd see it and it would be, again, contained within itself. And, the smaller leaks, if there's a drip or whatever, again, you've got oil sorbent pads or cloth that grabs hold of that oil and you just, throw it out properly.
And the propane tanks behind that, those are going below grade. Did you say that?
Correct. These are below grade, underneath an 8-inch thick reinforced concrete pad, similar to what you'd have at a gasoline station,
Okay.
With the tanks underground.
Okay. Thank you. Commission members, questions for Dynas at this time? Okay, I guess there's none at the moment. Back to you, Attorney Beecher.
Thank you and good night.
Does the applicant have anyone else speaking in favor of this application at this time?
We don't have anybody that we're presenting. No, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Is there anyone else wishing to speak in favor of this application? Anyone else in favor? Is there anyone else wishing to speak in favor of this application? Is there anyone wishing to speak in opposition to this application? Anyone in opposition? Anyone wishing to speak in opposition to this application? Okay. Ally, what other city departments are we waiting to hear from on this?
I know a couple of the city departments have started reviewing the revisions that were submitted. However, all of the departments are currently reviewing revisions. And comments will be forthcoming in terms of the revisions.
And I believe the department, Ally, got, I think we all said this earlier, a lot of information came in either yesterday or today, and I imagine your department is still going through that?
Yes, a majority of those comments, or a majority of the documents that I sent over today, those involve response letters to construction services, and then that spill prevention and countermeasure plan that Dynas referred to was also in response to the fire marshal office. So there are still departments reviewing this, and again, we just got additional information today. Yes.
Okay, thank you. All right, commission members, as we just discussed, staff is still looking at the responses. City departments are still reviewing this matter. Unless there's anything else for the applicant, I'll entertain a motion to continue this public hearing until our next meeting.
Mr. Chairman, so moved.
Motion made by Mr. Sylvain. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Haas. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? This application will be continued at our next regular meeting, which is on February 21st, 2024. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to move forward with our agenda. Commission members, as shown, there's nothing under old business for discussion and possible action. No referrals. I'm sure you're all real disappointed about that. No new business, and then no correspondence. The final matter on our agenda is the election of officers, chairman and vice chairman. This is something we do every year. I guess I should open by asking, are there any nominations for the position of vice chairman?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I would like to nominate Bob Chiocchio as vice chairman of the Planning Commission. He's done an excellent job in leading our commission in the absence of you, our honorable chairman. So that's my intent.
Thank you. Motion made. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
And Mr.
Sorry,
Haas.
Kevin.
Okay, motion made and seconded for Robert Chiocchio to continue his position as vice chairman. Is there any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Nominations for chairman, anybody?
Mr. Chairman, I'll nominate yourself, Arnie Fernaldi.
Are there any nominations to impeach the current chair? That seems to be the thing to do these days. All right. The motion has been made for Arnold Fernaldi as chairman. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Sylvain. Any discussion? You're sure? Okay. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Arnold Finaldi will continue as chairman. Thank you all very much. Thank you. Seriously, thank you very much.
Thank you.
We'll continue to try hard. Okay, and there's nothing under other matters for discussion and possible action. I'll let you review for reference only. And if there is nothing else, Ally, anybody, am I missing anything? Joanne? Jen? Okay. If there's nothing else, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make the motion to adjourn.
Motion made and by Mr. Kyokyo, seconded by, put a hand up, Mr. Haas. Thank you, Kevin. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? The meeting is adjourned. Thank you all very much. Have a good
Thank
evening.
you.
Good job, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Good
Thank
job.
you.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.